Mark Movie Podcast. It's already going live. We're live now, buddy.
We're live.
Hey, Aaron Whitlow.
Brandon Spivey here.
We are the, I'll let you say it this time.
We are the Markout Movie Podcasters. Welcome to our show.
Maybe I shouldn't have let you say it. So, hey, welcome to the show. And in today's episode, Brandon, let them know what we're doing.
We are reviewing City Slickers 2. Is it The Legend of Curly's Gold?
The Legends of Curly's Gold. I misremembered it as the Search for Curly's Gold, but yeah. I think it would have been a better title.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Because it's not really a legend. If not everybody knew about the legend, only our actors knew about the legend. Well, I guess more people knew about it. We'll talk about that. All right,
yeah.
Go ahead.
But yeah, before though, we have an elephant in the room with this film because Bruno Kirby did not return. There's many stories about it. This is not really a fun fact or anything. It's kind of a sad fact. He wanted the script changed, and Billy Crystal didn't agree with him, so he wrote him off. Not only did he write him off, it's very heavily rumored that he got Bruno Kirby blacklisted from the mainstream Hollywood because of this.
Oh, wow.
Because he didn't do big films after this film came out. I hate it if it's true, but I looked up his films and I was like, well, he didn't do much, and I'm like, I hate that if it's true. I mean,
yeah, I do too. I hate that.
He had a problem with the script because he felt it was about Mitch and his friends, but it was Mitch. His friends were just tagging along, and I could see that. I mean, it's kind of like the first one. I mean, it was mainly about Mitch. I mean,
as it should have been, though. It should be about Mitch. I mean, that's what we're here to see, Mitch, and the friends are excellent, no doubt. I enjoy the friends being there, but with everything being said, though, the movie is about Billy Crystal. He's gonna get the main. He's gonna get the main marquee. You know what I mean? He's gonna get the main name.
He's the biggest star.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. And so why? I think Bruno Kirby, God rest his soul, he did die. I think that he should have really thought about that, and not really, it's probably
egos come into play though. I mean, sadly, especially if a movie's a big hit, it's kind of like I guess the NBA or NFL. You have a big season, you want more money, and he wanted his character to be bigger. I'd assume so.
Yeah,
it is what it is, but that is the reason he was not in the movie.
Yeah, but it is what it is.
No.
We'll bring it up. We'll bring up the the drive for everyone. City Slickers 2 is a movie that came out in 1994. The first one came out, 91, I believe?
Yeah, 91.
And so this is a PG-13 film. It's an hour and 56 minutes long. It's a comedy, and directed by Paul Whelan. And we're not going to mention the writers, although you can see them on IMDb. But let's go ahead and get into the synopsis. 1 year after their first Western adventure, Mitch Robbins and his friends discover a treasure map that belonged to their late trail guide, Curly, and they set out to discover its secrets. This movie stars, as he mentioned before, Billy Crystal as Mitch Robbins, Daniel Stern returns as Phil Berquist, John Lovitz joins the role this time around as Glen Robbins, a brother that was not mentioned in the first movie, and Jack Palance returns, but as Duke Washburn. And we're not going to mention also one more person that did not return. I noticed was Jake Gyllenhaal. He did not. They mentioned him, but you don't see him.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You can hit us with them numbers.
All right, here are the numbers. On IMDb, it got a 5.6 out of 10. On Vudu, it gets a 4.2 out of 5. 88% like this on Google. As far as the Rotten Tomato scores, get ready because it ain't pretty. 18% on the tomato meter. Whew, ugly. The audience score, though, 31%. And this movie, like the first one grossed 100 and something million. I think it was 151. This one only did 43. So it was a flop. That's why we don't get a third.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's why we don't get a third. But I think that films that even if films flop, they do deserve another foot. You know, if we would have stopped with never mind, it's not a good example. I'm going to use it anyway because you appreciate it. If we would have stopped with Rocky when Rocky fought Tommy Gunn, we would stop there. Then the series would have, the franchise would have been dead. But because we got a Rocky Balboa, the series continued, and because we got a Rocky Balboa, we was able to eventually get a Creed and a Creed 2 because they gave it another chance. And so
Yeah.
I'm not saying City Slickers is that level of movie, but I think that it deserves another chance.
Yeah, funny fact though, in 2009, Billy was trying to get a City Slickers 3 made, but I don't know why. I mean, Jack had already passed, I believe. Bruno was gone. It would just been him and Daniel Stern. I mean, but we talked about that last week. What they could have done. Maybe that they had plans to do that. I don't know, but he tried in 2009 to get a City Slickers 3, but just no one was interested. Basically,
Unfortunately, but hey, it's okay. Well, we are interested today in City Slickers 2,
yeah,
so we're going to get into it. So this movie it takes place. So the last one took place when Mitch turned 39. This takes place a year later when he turns 40. There's a lot of the same beats, same jokes from the first movie that kind of returns in some form, like the stuff with his mother calling him at the
yeah.
time of his birth and his father and stuff like that. So that kind of stuff returns. But you can tell that Mitch is in a much better place this time around at the beginning of the movie than he was at the beginning of City Slickers, the original one. What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, he's in a much better place. The only issue he has is he thinks Curly's ghost is following him. But I thought he was in a much better place. He, resolved his issues. My issue with this movie, though, they don't mention Ed whatsoever. Like he moved, he died. I mean, nothing. It's like he just was forgotten. I didn't like that. I didn't like that they just wrote his character completely off with no explanation.
Yeah, I agree. They could have said, yeah, Ed is off in Europe with his model girlfriend or something like that, something to
Yeah.
explain his absence. But they didn't. They acted as if Ed was never there, and but then
Mm-hmm.
they acted as if Glen was always there, and that wasn't the case.
No, it wasn't the
Uh,
case at all.
and so I didn't like that. I didn't like that aspect of it. In the first movie, there's no mention whatsoever that Phil, uh, or Mitch. I'm sorry, Mitch. I'm doing it again. There's no mention whatsoever that Mitch had a brother in the first movie, as you brought up in the
No,
last
no,
episode we had. So
no mention of that. And Phil really got worse. Like he had a good ending, didn't work out though. Which I think that makes sense. Coming off a divorce, first one you're meeting, it's not gonna work, most likely. But he just was in a worse place. I like him. I like him better in this movie, his character, than the first one.
all right,
I think.
this is my thoughts on him, real quick.
Okay.
I believe Phil. I think that okay. So this movie came out. All right, let me see something. So the first one came out in '91,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And then let's see. Let me check on one thing real quick. Um, to talk about my point. All right, so the first one came out in 91. He was in Home Alone in 90, right?
Right.
And then Home Alone 2 came out in 92. Uh, and so at that point, I believe that his character, his he was more slapstick. I think that in this one he was more animated than he was in the first one. In the first one, I felt like he was a real human that was quirky or whatever. But I think in this one he was too overly slapstick. Although he still had really great lines, really great delivery, really great uh, comedic presence. But I felt like he was a little too slapstick in this one.
So I didn't see that at all. But I thought everything was just going bad for him. I thought, he's calling a therapist that he works with, which Mitch gave him a job. And it just everything. It just he was in a really dark place. I felt, but he was using. It's kind of like what Robin used to do. Like I guess Patch Adams would be the perfect example. That's a serious film, but it's funny. I feel like Daniel was in that dark place with his character Phil, and he was just using comedy. That's how I took it. I didn't take it as slapstick. But I can see your point. I understand it because I know a lot of people said that about Dumb and Dumber too. With Jim and Jeff, they weren't real characters; they slapstick.
More like
I understand it.
caricatures, more like
Yeah,
caricatures of the original character. But not saying anything because he has some of the best lines in the movie. Once
yeah,
again, he has some of the best moments and some of the best lines in the movie. But let's discuss the other elephant that's in the room.
yeah.
John Lovitz. John
It's
Lovitz.
it's a it's an elephant, all right. Um, I like John, but I don't like him in this movie. I originally did, but watching it, I was just like, he kind of takes away momentum every time he speaks. I don't know if
It,
you felt that way, but I just like, shut up,
I,
John.
I felt like John Lovitz was the third wheel in this
Yeah,
movie. Honestly, like whereas with Bruno and the rest of the gang in the first movie, I felt like they had real chemistry. I felt like they were really friends, that they grew up together, that they've been lifelong buddies, right? I felt
yeah,
that way. But in this with John, I felt like he was tacked on, man, and I couldn't help but to feel that he was tacked on. That
yeah.
he
I
wasn't
agree.
supposed to be there. He didn't really add to the characters, to the movie to me. And I'm not saying anything against John Lovitz because I love John Lovitz. I love him in The Critic. I loved him in Little Rose with like Ladies Night. I loved him in Rat Race. So I'm a fan of the guys. Just well, not Ladies Night. I meant Wedding Singer. He sings Ladies Night in that song in the movie. But I love him as a character actor or as a comedic actor rather. But in this movie, I felt that he was little too forced and whiny and not really meant to be there. Like I would much rather have seen City Slickers with just Daniel Stern and Billy Crystal
Yeah,
going on this adventure together.
yeah. I agree with you. He, but I do think that's the character though that they didn't want him there. It was kind of forced. So it kind of works both ways. It felt that way as his performance felt that way. And I think the movie wanted it to feel that way. But at the same time, him being there just kind of took away because it wasn't a bond like it was in the first movie, that trio. There was no bond there. It was jealousy. Like what does he do? Like Mitch doesn't even know what his own brother does for a living. you know, he's never
And
around.
and
And
he's always begging money. Like
yeah,
he mentions that he's always begging money. He goes to other relatives' house and pretty much hit him up for money until they kick him
yeah,
out, and then he goes somewhere else. And he's always quoting Godfather.
yeah,
It's just he was. I don't know. I just was very annoyed with him.
yeah. I was
Uh,
annoyed too. I
but
really
I
was.
I was also annoyed with. I mean, I was annoyed with Phil as well in this movie. Not to the extent where I was annoyed with Glenn, but I was annoyed with Phil and how dumb they made him. Like I felt like they made him dumber in this movie than he was in the first film. Like, they were like when they first got to the so we'll explain it. So Mitch Mitch on his birthday night, him and his wife was gonna have some fun, and he decides to grab Curly's old hat, which he still kept. And as he's putting it on, he realized that there's something that's kind of hitting him in his head. So he pulls away the top of the hat, and it reveals an old map that is inside of a tobacco package, right? And so that old map points to Curly's Gold, which later him and Phil discovers that's what it was. But at the same time, as Brandon stated, Mitch keeps feeling that he's seeing the ghost of Curly. He feels like he buried him alive. And so they decide to go ahead and go on this trip to Las Vegas / go ahead and go on to this adventure to find this gold with Glen in tow because he felt like he couldn't leave Glen. But when they were getting supplies, and he was talking to the farmhand or the guy, and the guy was like, it's a lot just to go out on a weekend camping trip. He said, yeah, we're up here. We're a seismologist, and he made this elaborate story about being a seismologist, and his brother John Lovitz, Glenn, was going right along with him. But then here comes Phil talking about, and the guy had the map buried in his hat, and we up here to look for this $2 million, legend, or whatever of gold. And I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, I think that line should have came from Glenn. Honestly, I mean, but yeah, you're right. They may feel dumber in this one, which Daniel, he can play dumb really well. I mean, but I agree with that. I thought it was funny, but here's the difference in this film compared to the original. The original you felt was real. You believe these people were real. In this one, you don't. It's a movie. It's it's just a movie. It's for entertainment. It's what I would say. It's not as good.
It is what it is, man. It's not as good. It's not as good. Although there was parts in this movie that like I'm marked out for. And we'll talk about it. So they get there and they start looking for this. They start going. They realize that the map is real, things like that. And the guys that they bought the equipment from sneak up on them to try to rob them and kill them, which is murder. It's murder. They try to murder them.
Yes, they
did. and lo and behold, we thought Curly, Jack Palance, pops up, but it's not. It's actually, we found out that it's his twin brother Duke. But this is the part that made me mark out. I marked out just seeing Jack Palance again. Even though he plays a different character. And whereas we talked about last time how we didn't realize that Curly wasn't in as much of the movie because he died fairly early. And this one, I didn't realize how much of the movie Jack wasn't. I'm sorry, that Duke wasn't in. He came like not really midway, but he came like getting close to the second part of the
I would
movie.
say he came in beginning of the second act. That's what I would say. I loved seeing him pop up. I love Jack. Playing these characters, Duke and Curly. But I tell you, the scene that made me mark out the most, the whole movie, was Phil using the restroom, and he thinks he gets bit by a rattlesnake. That whole scene, I was dying laughing. It still cracks me up because he thinks he's got poison in his rear, and Billy and Mitch and Glen are just trying to decide who's going to suck the poison out of his rear. I love that. I had a good time with that scene. Like, suck my ass!
Oh wow!
Somebody, I just loved it. It was hilarious. For me, it was anyway. I love it.
Yeah,
But
it was. It was and I didn't realize how adult that was, when I was a
yeah,
kid watching it. I didn't realize and there's so many implications in this movie where you're like,
yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I think that's Billy Crystal's humor though coming because he helped wrote the script, so I think it's his humor, and maybe that's a bad thing, overall, because you felt the characters weren't as I do. I agree though the characters weren't. Mitch was fine, but uh, Phil, he was I understand what you're saying about him. And Glenn was just a terrible character in my opinion. But it is what it is. But as a comedy though, I had a good time watching it.
I
But
wasn't bored. I was never
yeah,
bored.
it was entertaining. But just as you said in your letterbox review, because I did read it. I haven't done mine yet, but I did read it. It is missing the heart of the original movie. Whether that's Bruno or not, I don't know, but it's missing something. And he wasn't there, so
It's
you can
missing that one
argue.
thing. It's missing that
Yeah,
one thing. No, but yeah, it is. It's totally missing to me that heart, that one thing that sets the first one apart from this one. The first film was truly a a film that you know I didn't even think about it until I watched it again recently when we started doing it. Is one of my favorite films of my adolescence. It was
yeah,
really a film that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed Billy, I enjoyed Daniel, I enjoyed Bruno, and I enjoyed Jack. And so I enjoyed everyone that was in it, and I just really felt like it just and but with this one at the end of it, like the first one, I felt like you end on such a high note. Like, even when the everything's over and they're at the ranch, they found out that yes, they're gonna have to sell these cattle for beef. And it's sad, but it still ends on a high note because they survived, they're together, and they're stronger, and their bond is stronger. In this one, I felt like the ending was such a low note. Like you didn't feel that satisfaction. You know what I mean? When it
yeah,
came to the guys, like when it came to they went on this journey, and they found what they thought was the gold, and couldn't find out, no, it's just lead painted in gold, for a new tourist trap essentially.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're right. It's the direction, and when it went that direction, I was like, "Well, all this was for nothing. Just nothing." I mean, what feels no better off than he was before we started. Mitch is Mitch, and Glen's Glen. I don't know what the message was for them. At that point, I didn't feel there was a message other than having a good adventure, I guess, with your best friend and your brother that you don't talk to.
Exactly. Like and you're right in that aspect too, Brandon. In the first movie, you felt like all of the characters, Bruno, uh, Mitch and Phil, all of them got their resolution. We mentioned that how all of them got their resolution. Mitch became more invested in life. You know what I'm saying? He became
Yeah,
more seeing that his family, his career is not a burden. Let's just do it better. Phil got the cojones to stand up to his bullies. We talked about that major scene where he stood up to the bullies, and he
mm-hmm.
got that gumption about him to go ahead and do that. And then with Bruno's character Ed, right?
Yeah,
He was able to see, well, let me stop being this player and go ahead and take responsibility and become a father and settle down and stop running from this idea of being a family man. And so all of them got their type of resolution. In this movie, I feel like none of them got a resolution. Phil is still penniless and still working at a job that he should be fired from because sounds like he's not doing a good job of it. His
Yeah.
brother is still unemployed and just smooching. I assume he's just gonna go back. I guess they have a closer relationship now, but it just I felt like they didn't really have a resolution. And then Duke is the only one that sort of got a resolution, and I guess Mitch sort of got a resolution, but it's not really. It's like a false resolution because we don't have a payoff because there's no City Slickers 3.
Uh, there is no City Slickers 3, and there really wasn't a resolution. It was just for the audience, just an entertaining time. It was like I was entertained by it. I won't say I love it. I won't say it's good. I won't say it's a great film. I will say it's an entertaining film. You can have fun with this. But when Duke does come back, he shows Mitch the gold, and Mitch is like Curly. I mean not Curly, but Duke. Duke, it's paint, it's lead, there's no gold, it's not real. And Duke says it's real, and he proves it to him, and Mitch is like cutting it with a knife, and it's gold.
Come and get me, come and get me, come
Yeah,
and get me, come and get me.
yeah. It was. I liked the scene, and I would have wanted a 3, but we didn't get it. So
And it's hard to do it. Like it'd be hard at this point, and I would love to see it, like we mentioned, but it'd be hard to do it at this point because Jack is gone, and
yeah,
it wouldn't be believable that they would have waited from 91 to 93
94.
for this 94 to
Yeah,
2020 to go back and look for the gold, unless they say, well, I didn't do it then because you know, Duke ended up dying. But that's still morbid because you saying that Duke died like right at like maybe in his hotel room, or whatever. He went to get him the next day and or whatever, and Duke passed away. It's a morbid thought, but I would love for him to do it again. But honestly, I don't know a way to tie up too many loose ends. You got the Ed loose
yeah,
end. You got this loose end.
yeah. It'd be fun. It'd be a fun idea to do a third one. With what we said last week with Jake Gyllenhaal's character, but I don't know how you do that story and explain what happened at the end of the second. Where did you go from there? I mean, you just say, "Hey, we went and found the gold and we're rich." I mean, I don't know what you do there, but I I enjoyed the movie though. I enjoyed the ending. We didn't get a payoff with it. But I'll tell you one thing I did not enjoy, and that was the fake death of Glen. You, you remember
Yeah,
that? Yeah. Him all weeping, and it just it wasn't funny to me. It was just sad. They try to make it a sad scene where he's dying, but I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like the
yeah.
scene. I didn't like the direction there.
It was weird. It was weird that they like looking at that scene. I was thinking this while I was watching that scene. I was like there's a couple of things that was weird that they did in this movie that
Yeah,
makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. They did it. That's one of them. Let's talk about that. So Glenn, so as they are in the mine, I guess, um, and they wrestling the bandits who are now actors that are, participating in this tourist trap to search for gold, right?
yeah,
The Glenn jumps in front of Mitch and takes a bullet, and then like he does this whole dying thing where he's like, I can't even feel it, da da da, and then he just closes his eyes and just like slumps over as if he's dead, knowing good and well in his brain and body that he's still alive. Like that you're still living. You know that you're not dead. And so
yeah.
and then like when he says it's paint and he says, what? And they both look up. they did it for comedy, but I didn't find it funny at all, like you said. And another thing they try to play on Curly dying in the first one, but
Oh yeah,
with Duke being still. But there's absolutely no reason whatsoever for Duke to be still like that. He was just frozen, looking, and then he's like, "What is up with this family dying on their feet?" But he
yeah,
just and he said, "Ah," he said, "I got you. You thought I was dead, didn't you?" Ah, it's like, why would you do that? And
yeah.
I said that.
That actually didn't make any sense. I mean, the audience understands why he's doing it, but Duke wasn't even there. How did he know he actually died that way? I mean, I wouldn't imagine that he knew he talked to anyone that was there at the time of his death. So, I mean, I understand why they did it to a point, but it just it didn't work, and him trying to scare him. But I will say one thing about these two movies together. Billy and Jack's chemistry is off the charts. They
Absolutely,
make
yeah.
you care. Even in this one, those when they're alone, the camera's on them, you're glued to them. They have your full attention. And that's one thing I will say about City Slickers 2 that was still there from the original movie was Billy and Jack's chemistry.
I agree. I think that also there's another thing. There's another scene I want to mention that I thought was kind of. Looking at it from an editing standpoint, it made no sense. So when they were off code, right at
Mm-hmm.
nighttime, all the resources are pretty much gone, and they did that whole huddle together to keep warm scene, and Billy's in the middle, and then you have well, let's say Mitch is in the middle, Phil's on one side, Glenn's on the other side, and they're just all like that to keep warm. But then when Mitch goes up to go see not Curly, I'm sorry, Duke, and see if he wants to come, down there, and then they just set up there and they talk for a while, but it never was a resolution as to that Mitch went back down there. So when the next scene, editorial scene, it goes from them sitting up there talking at nighttime, like kind of like this, sitting in that little between the two rocks, sitting like this, to the next scene, them all huddled together, as if they were all sleeping there all night. There was like a hard cut to that scene, so there's no resolution between what we finished seeing and then what we got in the next scene. Which just for me, in an editing standpoint, it made no sense. If they would have even just had Mitch say, "Well, all right, I just want to check on you," and then go off frame and something like that, and then like maybe Duke put his hat down and just barrel in or something. That'd been good to just make sense of the next scene. That's just it's a nitpick, I guess. Not It's not a gripe. It's just a nitpick.
Well, he's nitpicking here, ladies and gentlemen. He's nitpicking. Uh, yeah, I didn't pay attention to that at all. That is your field. You edit, so I didn't pay attention to that one. I did. I don't know if I like the scene where they're all huddled up or not. It makes sense. You're freezing to do that. It's just I don't know. It didn't warm my heart at all. It didn't make me laugh about it.
And,
So
and and for Glenn's hand to be on Mitch's crotch makes no sense. It would make more sense for it to be Phil's hand on Mitch's crotch because it's weird. Just
yeah,
like either way, it was it was what it was. But just we done lost like two viewers now because I started talking about crotches. Two viewers said, "Gotta go," but no, yeah. So I don't know. Just like my thoughts on the movie on City Slickers 2 is that the movie wasn't terrible, but it, I remember not liking it in '94. As at 14 years old, I remember not liking it because I held the first one in such high regard. So
yeah,
it paled in comparison to me. But I would say that it isn't revisiting it now as a 40-year-old man. Uh, it isn't as bad as it was when I
yeah.
initially. It didn't leave the same taste in my mouth that it did when I was 14. Now,
Well, another thing though they didn't have to do like something as a Western. You know, these people, these guys in the original film, you find out that they do this every year. They try new stuff. You could have done a new adventure. You didn't have to do it like a Western. But and they did, and they kind of didn't do it like a Western. The first half, I don't think was anything like a Western, but the the treasure, searching for the treasure, it kind of felt Western, you know. But I don't know. I felt
It
like there
did.
was a different direction they could have took.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't. But what did you feel about the story? How did you feel about the actual story they told?
I felt the story that they told, as far as them searching for the gold, I
Yeah.
felt like it was mainly for. I felt like it was an unnecessary story to tell. Uh, like you said, it made more sense if they say would have went on a different adventure
Yeah.
versus doing the western again. Even though city slickers, that's the term that I guess people call Yankees. I guess that come in from out of town. City slickers coming up here just to get away and live it up like your cowboys and stuff. But they could have, even if they did the western thing, they could have took it in a different direction. I felt like the searching for the gold, it didn't feel more like a western to me as it did like more like a Goonies type of scenario. Not saying that it was Goonies, but that type of searching for
Yeah.
treasure. They weren't like digging to find gold or nothing. It was more like they literally the end of the movie. So they had all these pickaxes and everything to search and dig for gold, and that probably would have been a different, more in tune with being a western. But they literally went to a cave and searched around for gold until they stumbled upon the gold. Right?
Right.
It wasn't really. I don't know. I felt like it. I felt like it wasn't. And then Duke never really explained where he found that gold bar at, and why
No.
did he just take one?
No, he never did. I think my problem with the story is they didn't spend enough time actually treasure hunting. you know, if they would have spent more time on that aspect, I think I would have really enjoyed it more than I did. But this movie, um, momentum, it has momentum problems. I'm
Pacing problems, yeah.
yeah, pacing. It feels like it's going in different directions all the time. For me, it's kind of how I felt, and I enjoyed some of the directions, but some of them I was like, "Why'd you do that? I don't think you would have done that." But I'll tell you one scene in the mine reminded me so much of It Chapter 1 in the house with the doors. There was three ways to go.
I thought about that too.
Yeah,
Exactly, I thought about that immediately.
I was like, well, somebody's going to get killed in one of these directions to go. But overall, I mean, I had a entertaining time with it. It's not a classic by any means. It's not something I would just rewatch, uh, unless I was like rewatching City Slickers, or unless they did do a third film. I would rewatch it then. But other than that, I wouldn't spend too much time on it.
Yeah, it doesn't have rewatchability at all for me. Even though I've seen it like at this point in life, man, I've probably seen it a good 4 or 5 times in my life. Not as much as I've seen the first City Slicker movie. I've seen that uh, an unnumberable amount of time,
Yeah.
amount of times. And it doesn't hold up as far as being a movie that I would like. Typically I'm a collect. I'm a completist. Completist. I don't know. Completionist. I guess if it's the term. I don't know. So when I get at movies, I typically collect all the movies that is in the set.
Yeah.
It's just who I am. But I wouldn't bother buying City Slickers 2 because it's not worth the purchase. Whereas the first one would be worth the purchase alone.
Yeah.
Uh, Especially like if they came out with like a new special features with like maybe Billy and Daniel talking about the experience or something. That'd been dope. But yeah.
I own both. I have the first one on Blu-ray. Second one's on DVD. I don't know if I would. if they did come out with the Blu-ray, if it was like between $5 and $7, I'd probably buy it, but I wouldn't pay 20 for it or anything. So, like I said, I wouldn't rewatch it unless I was rewatching City Slickers. But then again, I don't think this was a necessary sequel. I think it's unnecessary. You didn't need a sequel to City Slickers.
What they could do is do the and I apologize, but what they could do is do the Halloween thing, and act as if the City Slickers 2 never happened, never existed. Maybe Mitch was having an elaborate dream of of experiencing this, but but he doesn't experience it because it was just all in his head. It's something that he kind of held onto a notion of doing, and so they could just make it they could make the new movie the next City Slickers film, and make sure the second one isn't canon. But I mean, it didn't make money, so it's okay to make sure it's not canon.
Yeah, I think it's okay if they went in that direction. Which the last I heard, I think 2016, Billy was talking about another possible City Slickers. I think he really wants to do one. I think it's the only thing he's done as far as series wise. I don't think he has any other films that had sequels. So, and Billy doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, I like Billy Crystal though. I think he was a very funny comedian in his heyday, and I don't see him in much these days. So I would love to see a comeback from Billy.
Definitely.
But again, I thought this film was unnecessary. It just didn't make a lot of sense for Mitch to do what he did. And as Glen even said this in the movie, if this would have been my idea, you would have been all over me because how stupid it is. But
yeah.
See, I think they made Mitch stupid too. There was no reason for him to do this. He had everything going right in his life. I mean,
well, I think the reason for him to do it maybe is to, I don't know, maybe recapture the feeling that he had with Curly. I don't know, or he missed that and he wanted to relive that, even though it just happened a year prior in the timeline of this movie. There is really no reason to do it unless it's mainly for Daniel's sake, or for Phil's sake. Now Phil was the worst off. He didn't really which I also would say that that's not really good. That so in the last movie, Phil ended on such a little bit of a high note, but in this, it's like he squandered that and he's down and out on his luck completely.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to mention one joke that just came to my mind, and I didn't want to forget it. It's a joke that Phil says. It's when Billy or Mitch is in the he's in the cart and going down the tunnel, like screaming or whatever, and Phil has his ears to the track. He's like, "Yeah, there's definitely a train or something's coming, and it's coming in that direction." But the way the camera's set up, you see the cart and Mitch coming behind him as he's like looking in this direction, which was it's comedic. It's great writing. It's great. So this movie has some great things about it. Like I chuckled at that part because I thought that was just so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I chuckled at quite a few parts in this movie. I actually think I laughed more in this movie than I did the original, but
this is more of a comedy than the original, actually.
Yeah, but it doesn't have that heart. It also feels like something else is missing. I know Bruno wasn't in it, so maybe I missed his character. Even though of the three, he was my least favorite, but maybe I did miss him. But I kind of miss Curly more. I mean, I like Duke, but he's not Curly.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I didn't understand this either. They made him like a pirate. I mean, I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? Like he's a pirate, like a Long John Silver's or something, like some type of R. Do you want some more potatoes? Or he's that guy.
But yeah, they said that he lost his ship, out at sea or something. Like, and he became a
So
pirate at some restaurant. It's just, I'm like, why? How did that? How you go there?
well,
How's it?
I guess they wanted to convey the fact that why he really needs this. He really needs to
Yeah,
go because he's down and out on his luck, and he really wants to go. But and also you felt like, whereas with Mitch and Curly, you felt like they actually literally had a relationship with one another because
yeah,
they was able to bond. You felt like Duke and Mitch was forced in this movie. Like they didn't really have a relationship because Duke said, "I was gonna I was gonna cheat you all out of your gold,
yeah.
say that we didn't find anything, and then double back and take it all, and and it been all mine, uh, and so he's not his friend. Whereas I think Curly really was Mitch's friend.
Yeah,
You
I do.
know, it just you know,
I think they realized they made a mistake in killing Curly off. I think, well, Jack, they were like, okay, this guy's he's got buzz for us. His character, people love him. So I didn't think they were expecting that, and so they brought him back, but as a twin brother, which was kind of a thing, in the early '90s or the '90s period. I mean, I think I'm not
there was
sure. I know Adam Sandler. Did he play a bunch of twins or something at one point?
no. I hope not. Uh,
I know he did with Jack and Jill, but I was thinking he did something else too.
no, I mean
No.
there was that time frame where there was a lot of things with twins and
Yeah,
brothers and stuff like that. Like especially in the '80s, and maybe that was the old trope because twins obviously Arnold and Danny.
yeah.
So there was that, and so there was those type of films. But I think that I don't know. I agree with you. I think that they shot themselves in the foot, pun intended, by killing off Curly in the first movie, and so they had to justify bringing Jack Palance back, and they brought him back in the form of Duke, which would have been okay, but Duke wasn't even a lovable character as much as Curly was. So
No, he wasn't lovable, but he was more goofy, in this one. Well, I mean, I like the performance. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think he's good in the movie, but it's not Curly. You
do you
know.
feel like Jack Palance literally played not just character name wise, but do you feel like he literally played a different character than he did as Curly in this one?
Yeah, I do. I think there was parts that it was like Curly, but overall, I think he took the character in a different direction, and I don't think he was as likable. But you know, he came around in the end. He didn't have to. So I like that he did, but it wasn't like his character. He was out for himself
Yeah,
throughout this movie, and Curly was not. They were opposites. So
yeah.
it didn't make sense for him to do that. But I'm glad he did it. But I don't know. It just the film just isn't.
It falls short.
It falls short. I mean, it's entertaining, but it falls short. If you compare it to the original, you're gonna hate it.
Yeah,
That's the bottom
yeah.
line.
I agree. I agree with that. All right, let's go ahead and give them our mark outs for this movie.
Okay,
Uh, for City Slickers 2. Okay, so my letterbox, I forgot what I gave it.
you gave it a 4 out of 5.
I gave it 4 out of 5. I think because I left the movie looking at Jack Palance and Billy Crystal, and I was excited to see them too. But in reality, now that some days has passed since I saw it, I'm gonna give it for my Mark Out Movie podcast review. I'm gonna give it three and a half markouts out of 5, because it's not the first movie. By itself, it's not terrible, but what makes it work once again is Phil Daniel Stern. What makes it work is Jack Palance as Duke. What makes it work is Billy Crystal. What does not make it work is John Lovitz and also the absence of Bruno Kirby does not make it work, in my opinion. And then also the Shallowitz brother shows back up at the end. I felt like that was forced too.
Yeah, I you know what? If they would have done that movie with the characters coming back to the ranch, and they were doing that for a tourist attraction, I think it would have been better than what they did. But it's kind of repeating yourself. So with the same people, but I don't know. I enjoyed seeing David Paymer come back at the end, and the other guy. I enjoyed them, but I was like, would they really do this a year later? Would they really come back? Maybe they would. Maybe they had a great time. I was like, let's do this again next year. People do like to go back to the same places they visited a year later. I mean,
they went the safe route though. The Shallowitz brothers, they went the safe route and a guided tour with lunches and everything like that. Whereas that's why at the end it ends on such a downward note, because these guys, Mitch, Phil, Glen, and Duke, went out there without food, without anything like that, and toughed it out. Almost died several times, and went at it that way for very much real gold, not just a tourist trap. Oh, this is good. That's fine. We're gonna go and have a steak dinner after all this. They didn't go for that. They went for a real life changing of their lives. Even though, as you said before, and I agree with you, Brandon, there's no reason for Mitch to be out there because his life was already on such a high level. His life was he was better off in the sequel than he was in the first one, like at the beginning. So
I do like one thing about him. I like a few things about Mitch, but one in particular I like is that he hides it from his wife. I was just laughing, and I was just laughing because he's.
I kind of relate to that.
I was just laughing though because
kayfabe.
He's on the phone with her, saying he's at the hotel or whatever. And don't call me at the hotel though. Call me on my cell. Which I didn't even realize in '94 we had cell phones.
Well, those were the big cell phones you saw. Yeah. It's the big antenna cell phones. Man, those Nokia.
We've adapted well since 1994. But I love that scene though. And then his phone gets destroyed.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, she's gonna find out now."
Yeah. But yeah. What's your marks? I'm sorry.
My marks, 3.5. As I've said, it was an entertaining film. I had fun watching it. It didn't have the heart. It didn't feel, no pun intended, it didn't feel like a true City Slickers film. It felt, I guess in some aspects, it's the same way people feel about Dumb and Dumber 2. It feels like they're trying to be City Slickers, but they're not. They're just not. They're not. I guess you're right. They're not the same characters. Well, at least Daniel Stern, he was not the same character he was in the first one. Right. He was more a doofus, I guess you would say.
He was essentially his character in Home Alone, but merged with the character from the first City Slickers. It was like a combined guy, just, but I don't know. I mean,
but yeah, I give it a 3.5 on the mark out meter. It was a fun little adventure film. Not great, but I had fun with it. And it entertained me.
It was still entertaining.
The first one though, it was disappointing. If you don't watch the original and you just pop this in, I think you can have fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would not recommend you do that. I recommend if you're gonna watch City Slickers, watch City Slickers.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't tell you that you don't have to watch this one. If you watch the first one and you haven't seen this one, I would say still watch it so you can get the full picture. Whereas like a movie like The Boy, I would tell you just watch the first one and never watch the sequel. Act like that never exists, and you'll be okay.
The sequel never happened. There was no Boy 2. Never happened. End of End of discussion on The Boy. No sequel.
Well, we won't say it. Yeah, no sequel. All right, but that is the end of today's episode. Next week, Brandon will be doing a solo review of what, Brandon?
Summer of '84.
Summer
It's
of
on
'84.
Shudder. I recommend it. Highly recommend it. It's my
Why
favorite film on Shudder.
While we're speaking about it, so I just recently watched on Shudder Host, which is a new Shudder original horror movie. It's like 57 minutes long. Takes place during the quarantine pandemic, and it's really good. I just shot a review for it. It's like a 3 or 4 minute long review. I'm gonna have it up on our YouTube channel soon, hopefully. But yeah, I recommend you watch it. If you watch something on Shudder, watch Summer of '84, watch Haunt, watch Host, and also watch Hell House LLC. Those are the only thing that I can, in good taste, tell you to watch on Shudder. Other than horror noir, that's the only other thing that I can tell you to watch. Maybe Kane Hodder's documentary, but
I mean, they have a couple shows that I'm interested in, like Creep Show.
Joe Bob Briggs too. Yeah,
that Joe Hill adaptation. But it's not like an original. I think that comes on AMC, so they just get it. Is Creep Show an original for Shudder?
Creep Show is an original for. I think it is, but I'm not sure. Also, Cursed Films is a good little like they have some really interesting documentaries on there. Cursed Films, they look at different like little movies that have the cursed type of label to them, whether it's Poltergeist, whether it's Twilight Zone the movie, so Exorcist. So it's really a good little documentary. I would recommend anybody watch on there as well. And if I was to mention one more thing, it's a really cheesy movie, but I loved it so much. Humanoids from the Deep. If you like cheesy movies, I think it's Roger Corman. If you like cheesy movies, watch that movie. Watch that movie on Shudder.
Hey, if you want real cheese,
don't do it. Don't do that.
Go watch Pieces if it's still available. Oh my God, my review's on here. But if you want real cheese, if you want to laugh so hard at how bad things can get, well, go watch Pieces. I've never seen anything funnier in horror. Never. Oh, especially the ending. No. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we done marked out on something else other than City Slickers too. But yeah, we thank you for listening and watching us today. Join Brandon next week. After that, I believe that will be our interview with Mick Strong, who is a makeup, special effects, prop, legendary guy that worked in the industry. He worked on such films as Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4. Also, he worked on Candyman. He also worked, Brandon.
Critters 2, the main course.
Okay, yeah, that too.
I'm so excited.
I mentioned
I'm so excited to talk to him about that.
Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you just go to IMDb, look up Mick Strong. He has so much a wealth of things. I can't wait to pick his brain about what he's done and who he's worked with in the business. Also, if you are here right now, I'm asking you right now, check out on YouTube. I'm still going to hype it up. Ken Sagos, we just interviewed him on this channel. It was a great interview. Love spending time with Ken. Also go to his YouTube channel, Ken Sagos, and look at the McHenry trial trailer. Like, comment, and share that thing so that this man can get this short film made into a feature-length film and get eyes on it. It's we just thank you for allowing us, Brandon and I thank you for allowing us to just spend time talking to you every week about movies.
Absolutely.
I wish I could be here for you with 84. I don't know. Maybe this weekend. I don't know. No, I don't know. You're just gonna be you. I want to be here because I love that movie. I love it. 5 marks out of 5. I'm just gonna give you mine. 5 markouts out of 5 for that movie. There you go. I'm gonna watch it, and I'm gonna probably do a letterbox review and maybe give a little separate review on TikTok or something like that. Just a little short one. But Brandon's gonna give you the main course next Friday.
Since you brought that up, promote your TikTok thing. 'Cause I saw you did Final Destination 2. So,
yeah.
Promote it.
All right. So hey, follow me on TikTok at Aaron Knows Movies. On there, I usually do like movie reviews for movies from my shelf. I just started a new series called Movies That Mess Me Up, where I talked about Final Destination 2, how it messed me up with that log truck. If you know it, if you've seen it, it messed you up too. You know what I'm talking about.
We never look at log trucks the same way again.
That's right. I also talked about Psycho. I'm going to talk about one of Brandon's favorite movies later. He knows what I'm talking about. All right, and then and also other things I have on my TikTok is just like silliness, man. I like to entertain. Just come there and enjoy the entertainment. Brandon also has a letterbox. Go look at his reviews. He has really insightful stuff on there. And Anchor FM, Anchor.fm. Go check out the rest of our stuff on Anchor.fm because it's there. It's on all these other platforms. You can find our podcast, Mark Out Movie Podcast. I'm sorry I did the Donald Trump hand with that thing. But Mark Out Movie Podcast. Mark out. No. All right.
Don't be touching people, okay, Aaron? Don't be touching people like Donald and Biden.
No. Ixnay on the Uchente. But anyway, we thank you for joining us on this live.
Yeah.
Second live, Brandon. Second live,
and I promoted it wrong. Sorry, I thought it was going to be on YouTube. I do apologize.
We'll try to do the next one, Brandon. Brandon, I don't know if he's going to do live. Next one. He might do live. We'll see. I'll talk to him about it. But in the meantime and in between time, I'm Aaron Whitlow.
I'm Brandon Spivey.
We are the Mark Out Movie Podcasters. Thank you for marking out with us.